Xander man,
Yeah.
you ready to take this inexpensive little cabbage and turn it into some Kentucky Fried Magic?
Yeah.
Stick with us, and we're going to show you how. So Xander, we're going to take this cabbage and we're going to turn it into one of our favorite picnic sides, and some people's favorite barbecue side as well, coleslaw. If I was to ask you how old you thought coleslaw was, what would you say?
100 BC.
100 BC. You were pretty close. Our first known reference of coleslaw is in the 1st century AD in Rome. So AD is after Christ's death. So between the years 0 and 100, when our New Testament Bible was actually being written, is when Pliny the Elder in Pompeii wrote about Roman soldiers actually using cabbage and vinegar as a vegetable side. They needed to preserve green vegetables, especially with acid or salt, because we didn't have refrigerators like the one sitting behind us right now with all those magnets and all those notes. They needed to preserve vegetables for as long as they could. So they would take spices, vinegar, and sometimes they'd even put some egg in it if they had it. They would chop it all together, and that was their cabbage salad or slaw.
I would imagine them crushing the cabbage up.
Yeah, they actually might have. But Pliny the Elder says that they were chopping it at the time. By the end of it, it's probably getting pretty crushed up because Roman soldiers weren't delicate by any stretch of the imagination. Fast forward to about the 1700s, 1770 or so, and we have our actual first written known recipe from the Dutch cookbook called The Sensible Cook. When settlers came over from the Netherlands over to the Americas and started settling in here, they brought over what they called in Dutch koolsla, or koolsla, which means cabbage salad. Now, they replaced the egg and a couple of the different ingredients with mayonnaise. So mayonnaise, salt, and sugar was the basic recipe there. And that is what we know and love today. There are 2 different types of coleslaw in my world. There's a mayo-based slaw or creamy slaw and a vinegar-based slaw. Now, vinegar-based slaws we're going to do in later episodes with a couple of different applications, but today we're going to be making a creamy slaw, and we're going to be taking our inspiration not only from the Dutch and the Romans, but our favorite colonel, Harland Sanders. After about 30 years of KFC's being open, 1960, Harland Sanders decided to make some coleslaw for his fried chicken side. And that is the recipe we're going to try to recreate here with you. You ready to get cooking?
Yeah.
So we're gonna get in the kitchen, we're gonna wash our hands, we're gonna secure our cutting board, and we'll meet you there. For this recipe, you will need your big chef knife, your little chef knife, right, Xander?
Yep.
You'll need a wooden spoon or a spatula. You'll need a mandolin with the finger guard and small teeth. If you don't have a mandolin at home or don't want to use one, you can use a box grater or just your knife. You'll need a set of measuring spoons, a set of measuring cups, a whisk. You'll need a large enough bowl for the entire recipe to fit in with room to mix, or using a Pyrex bowl with a lid for storage. You'll need a scrap bowl, and you'll need a small to medium-sized mixing bowl for the marinade or vinaigrette. We will need a full head of cabbage, about 1/4 to half an onion. We've got a medium-sized onion here. We'll cut that in half later. We need 1 whole carrot. We'll need 1/3 of a cup of white sugar. Now, I know that's a lot of sugar. I never said that the KFC coleslaw was healthy for us, and that's what makes it our favorite. However, if you want to replace some of or all of the sweetener here with your favorite sweetener at home, whether it's stevia or xylitol or honey if you want, it's up to you to taste here. You can also just simply reduce the amount of sugar in this recipe as you wish. Use about 1/2 cup of full-fat mayonnaise. In this case, we're using Duke's because it's the creamiest and the best tasting in our opinion. 1/4 cup of buttermilk. That's going to give the slaw a balanced tang as well as a little bit of moisture to mix everything together. About 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar, sherry vinegar, rice wine vinegar, any of your favorites here. The white wine has the most neutral flavor that's going to balance everything out here. We're also going to need at least a tablespoon, if not 2 tablespoons of kosher salt. Again, we're using Morton's kosher salt because that is our favorite. All right, so for the method, here is our cabbage. You can see here that it's a little bit blemished here. I actually dropped it during filming. Whoops. We've got a little bit of black fleckage. We've got some leaves that are kind of starting to go on us, and they're tough to eat. These exterior dark green leaves on the cabbage, although very pretty, need to be removed because they're tough to eat. So Xander's gonna go ahead and remove 2 to 3 of the outer leaves until it looks really, really nice here. We're gonna grab our scrap bowl. Xander's gonna come in here. He's just gonna peel that back till it snaps off. There we go, put that in the scrap bowl. Excellent.
This would be good for the giraffes at the zoo.
This would be good for the giraffes at the zoo? Yeah, no kidding. That's really fun to do. Now that it's summer break, we should absolutely do that. All right. Okay. Awesome. Good job. Thank you, sir.
Voila.
Okay. Now, the cabbage wants to roll around, so we've got the stem end here. This is where it was attached to the root in the ground, growing upright, gorgeous. We need a flat side to be safe while we're cutting through this. So we're going to take this here with our knife. Again, I'm using a Santoku knife today because my chef knife is actually in the sink dirty, and it needs a little bit of sharpening too. If you haven't watched the videos on what the types of knives are that we recommend using or how to keep them sharp and up to date, how to hold them properly, we have a video for that. You should go check it out. So C-grip again, keeping safe here, even though it's a really big item. We're going to flatten this end off here. Just kind of go through, being very careful. And there's the end. Now we've got a flat side to work with. We're going to stand this upright. You can kind of see how the veins work. We're going to follow that here. So we need to break this down into smaller, manageable pieces. Our scrap bowl off. Working very carefully because we do have a flat side now. It's not going to want to roll. C-grip here. And we're just going to work our way through. Now, we've got half a cabbage. Really, really, really pretty. You can see here, this is the core. This part here, although it is technically edible, does not eat very well. So we're gonna go ahead and get this down into pieces where we can remove that. So we're taking this, always trying to find the flat side so that way things don't roll around. Because if you're trying to cut this, this is super, super dangerous, right?
Right.
So we're gonna go to flat side, find about halfway, and then we're gonna go through it. This is making these pieces more manageable for us to cut with our knife or our Ben Reiner or our box grater. Same here, right? About halfway through, removing. Now we've got quarters. So you can take and remove this if you'd like. Not necessary here because we're going to be using tools to take care of this. It's going to go in our scrap bowl because we don't need that. Okay. Next step here is to shred or julienne our cabbage. So we've got our big Pyrex bowl, big enough that it's going to handle all of this stuff. We're going to use our mandolin for some of this for speed and accuracy, using our finger guard for other things as well, making sure we're safe. We're also going to show you how to do this by hand with a knife in case you don't want to use a mandolin or haven't picked one up yet. So our landing zone is going to move over off camera here. Grab our knife back up. Now we're going to take this. Now you can go on YouTube and find all sorts of people making coleslaw. There's actually, I counted at least 20 videos right off the landing page. And a lot of them will take half a cabbage and just start cutting their way through it. We recommend taking it down into quarters for safety's sake and being able to control your knife better, and everything can be uniform. So again, we're rocking here pretty hard. What I do if you want to get really, really fine, really nice slaw that makes people say, wow, look at that, he must have done it on a machine. You can say, no, I did it by hand. So we're going to take our core out here and work in bits and pieces. You're going to grab back here. You're going to kind of secure yourself here, making this a flat side. And then you're going to rock through it. You're going to julienne really nice thin slices. And you can see how fine that is. Really, really nice. Okay. So you're going to work in bits and pieces. Now, if you want this to stay really long shreds, go ahead. You can also be doing a little bit of an oblique julienne by making things really, really tiny. All uniform by going back and forth. Now this part starts to get a little rocky, so you want to make sure that your C grip is really nice and firm. You can start moving a little bit slower, a little bit more controlled. Go at your own pace. Make sure that you feel safe and secure. All these last little bits, we're going to just be careful because we're getting towards the core. See there? That's a little bit of the core there, so this is just going to go on our scrap bowl. There is our hand shredded or hand julienne cabbage. Remove that off to the side. Now go back. Now you've got this core piece. This one, we're going to take a flat side. We're just going to do the same thing. Just working our way through nice and slow. So you're going to get the same shreds every single time. Nothing to it. If you want a chipped coleslaw like they do at KFC, chipped or chopped, you can use a box grater carefully as well, making sure that you watch your fingers because those teeth are really sharp on a box grater. Or you can leave this length whole, nice and easy like this, and then you can just run your knife back through, giving it a rough chop. Now, we believe that this has two different applications. When we're deciding to put slaw on a sandwich, like a fried chicken sandwich or say, for instance, a pulled pork sandwich, we want it shredded. We want it nice and long, so that way those pieces will hold on the bun while you take a nice big bite out of it, but not fall off. Chopped coleslaw, we tend to use more as an actual side dish. You eat it with a spoon, and just like this in a shred, you're just gonna run your knife through it. So then, instead of long pieces, it's bits and pieces, kind of bitsy like that. That's a chopped slaw. You can also use shredding attachment on your food processor if you have one at home. Leave that up to you. So there's our slaw in our bowl, ready to rock and roll. Just about enough room to add our few last ingredients and give it a stir. Next, we're going to take our onion. Now, if you haven't seen how to cut an onion, we have a video for that. So we're going to take the top end off. We're going to take the bottom end off. We're going to cut it in half. Into our scrap bowl that goes. I'm trying to waste as minimally as possible because food costs money. We're going to save this half of the onion for later use. There we go. Follow the lines. Remove more of the root end for a julienne. So we want everything to look the same so you can eat everything all at once. So follow the lines. Into our landing zone. Right in with our cabbage. Next, it's carrot time. Perfect. Thank you. Next one. Great job. Into the scrap bowl. So Xander, would you mind cutting this into thirds? About here and here. We're going to move it into manageable pieces. There's one. Next one, good C grip. Good knife control. Remember, saw through. Perfect. Okay, now we've got our pieces. It's a little bit short. That'll work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now you will notice that we don't have the carrot peeled. We've got it rinsed really, really, really well. In this case, the carrot skins are really thin. As long as they're washed, we actually leave them on in a lot of applications. No need to waste in this case. If you don't like that idea, go right ahead and peel them. If you'd like, just add a vegetable peeler to your equipment list. Now we're going to use our Ben Reiner, or our mandolin, Japanese mandolin from our last episode, with the small teeth for a fine julienne. Back that blade up just a bit. Use our finger guard because we don't want any cuts. Don't look at that, that didn't happen from this. That was a box cut. Then we're going to take our finger guard here and up there, and we're going to work in bits to make nice shreddy fine juliennes. All right, there is our nicely, quickly, and uniformly julienned carrots. And if you don't have a mandolin, highly recommend that you pick one up. $30 on Amazon, can't go wrong. So we're gonna remove our cutting board, and now we've got our cabbage, carrot, and onion ready to go. Now we're gonna mix up our slaw marinade or slaw dressing. All of our ingredients here, our creaming ingredients, mix them into this bowl, pour them into our slaw, stir it up, and we're ready to rock and roll. So first, we'll go with our
Buttermilk.
Next,
Duke's mayo.
then our
Sugar.
we're using about 1/3 of a cup. Again, feels like a lot, just because it is, but this is a creamy, sweet, and tangy KFC copycat recipe. A couple tablespoons of white vinegar. And then again, we're gonna start with about 1 tablespoon-ish of salt. We're leaving this open and up to your tastes. And I have a particularly high tolerance for salt as a chef, and we're using the kosher salt, so that dissolves slightly different than iodized salt. Taking our whisk, we're gonna mix carefully and slowly. We want to make sure that we mix it really well to get everything emulsified and incorporated, but also letting the salt and the sugar get a good dissolve. If it feels gritty, then that means we haven't stirred it quite enough. The liquid will start to dissolve all of that. Thank you, Xander.
You're
I'm
welcome.
going to finish this up. Scrape down the edge of the bowl. Okay, now that's good. You don't hear the grit of the salt or the sugar anymore. Remove this to clean up later. It's a good point to give it a taste. Just a little bit. How's that taste, Xander?
Great.
Good. Nice and sweet, nice and tangy.
That's really sweet.
Good amount of salt. Now that sweetness and that salt, once it starts to marinate with the vegetables, will actually start to leach the water out of cabbage and the carrots and the onions. Cabbage is a high percentage water, so as that water is released, it's going to thin out that dressing. It's also going to dilute the sugar and dilute the salt. So we're going to just literally pour this right in. Make sure we don't waste any of it. Now that doesn't look like a whole lot of dressing, and that is exactly the point here. Too many coleslaw recipes out there use a high quantity of dressing, and it just drowns the cabbage. A lot of complaints from people that don't like coleslaws because it's too watery, too runny, too soupy, and that's what we're going to avoid here. The quantities here are going to work perfectly for this. Now we're going to take our wooden spoon here. It's a little bit stiffer, so it can hold up to this. And we're going to just slowly work our cabbage in. Now, If you want, you can mix this up in a gallon Ziploc bag as well and just shake everything together. No mess, and then it's ready to go to your picnic. We're using a lidded bowl. However, the lid is not quite strong enough to hold in a shake. We've tried it before, and tell you what, coleslaw doesn't taste good when it hits the floor. Okay, now this is all nicely mixed up. Really gorgeous. And there we have it. That is coleslaw. Coolslaw cabbage salad. This is also going to be as close to KFC as you can get without actually going there. Our favorite part. This time we have
forks.
Tasting forks. Xander man, go ahead and get in there. All right, Xander, what'd you think?
I loved it.
I loved it too. And this, tell you what, is ridiculously close to the KFC's coleslaw, just a little bit different in shape. Going to be perfect on a fried chicken sandwich here soon. With the seasoning, we recommend letting this sit for a couple of hours to let everything kind of meld and marry together. This is what we call refrigerator magic. As things, sauces, soups, stews, salads like this, as they sit in the refrigerator for a couple hours to overnight, everything starts to meld together. Liquids start to leach out, mix together a little bit more, salt, sugar do their thing. So this is perfectly ready to eat right now if you're in a hurry or you just can't wait like us. However, we highly recommend waiting a couple hours, putting this in the refrigerator with the lid on, and then coming back to it and tasting it there. At that point, you'll know whether you need a little bit more vinegar, a little bit more sugar, or a little bit more salt, or a combination of all of those things. So now you've got a perfectly great slaw. It tastes very, very close to that famous KFC slaw, but it also pays homage or honor to where coleslaw came from. It came from Dutch chefs, and even before that, Roman soldiers, and the history is pretty cool. So thank you so much for sticking around with us. We hope that you can use this coleslaw all throughout the summer and enjoy it with a picnic. Now that it's summertime, because summer started today, right, Xander?
Yeah.
You graduated 3rd grade today. Super awesome. Super proud of you. And we can't wait to go out and have picnics with this recipe in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So until next time, thanks again. And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.